Hello and welcome back. So for this video, we'll be taking a look at SASS, right? So we'll convert the CSS file we've already written, we'll rewrite it, making use of SASS this time. So what is SASS? SASS simply means the acronym is syntactical awesome style sheet, right? So that's the acronym for SASS. So what does SASS? Well, I've written this article, you can see by me, by this my big face here. Um so what's SASS? So syntactical awesome style sheet language, right? So you can see the word awesome. So SASS is really awesome when you write it well. So so SAS is a preprocessor scripting language that is interpreted or compiled into cascading style sheets. So the browser can't read the SAS file, so you still have to like compile it or interpret it. Well, I'm just going to stick to compile, right? So it compiles your SAS code, your SAS style sheet, right? It compiles it into the plain normal CSS, or it makes you write less, right, when using SAS. So there are actually two aspects of SAS, right? So there's SAS and there's SCSS. Well, you could read this up. I'll make sure I leave this link in the description. Right. So the extension I'm going to be using is going to be SCSS. SAS is just like the general word, right? It's generally known as SAS. With this, your code looks cleaner and more like Python, where you don't have to include parentheses. And so like I give this example here. So with the SAS we should be using, because I prefer this method, right, which includes um braces, right? So we have main, the braces. By the way, this is next thing, don't worry, we'll get into that while we're writing SAS. While using SAS method, meanwhile using the SAS extension like SASS, right? You do something like this, then you put an indent, then H2, then an indent. Well, this could get pretty difficult, right? So for this video, I'll stick to this method of writing SAS, which the extension is SCSS. So this is where we left off in the previous video, right? So our HTML and our CSS remain the same, but now let's create a new folder. I'm going to name this SAS, right? SCSS or SASS, whatever. Then I'm going to say styles dot SAS, like that. So I've created a SAS file. Remember, you need to get this extension live SAS, right? So it's yeah, live SAS compiler. So live SAS compiler does the compiling from your SAS file to your normal CSS file, which the browser can read. So it's the SAS compiler. So when you get it, it shows this little pop-up feature where you can click and then watch whatever SAS code you are writing, then automatically compiles it to your CSS and so on. So now we've created this SAS file, right? So in the SAS file, we could copy these variables, right? These variables, copy them, then paste them here. Now, in order to make this sassy or to make it less stressful, the way we declare variables in SAS, so you get rid of this root. We don't need the roots. Roots, get out. These, get out. Okay, so we use the dollar sign. So I could just press Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D, everything clears. Then I change them to the dollar sign. Right, the way I grouped everything was Ctrl D, you select what you want, then Ctrl D does the magic. So that's how we declare things in SAS, right? So we declare variables in SAS. So we use the dollar sign. it's much cleaner compared to this, right? Compared to this, it's very much cleaner. So now if I click on watch SASS, if you notice, a new file got generated there as a CSS folder. Well, I've done that in my settings. I'm not going to show you how I did that now, but if you just got the extension, automatically it will generate the CSS file. So this CSS file, to generate it in the current directory where your SASS file is. But if I should show you how I did that, that will take a long process. So it's currently saying no CSS because we've not written anything. So if I should say body, we want the BG to use this variable BG, right? So this BG is using this BG, right? So the name are the same. You use the dollar sign to call the name, to call the variable, unlike CSS whereby this one whereby you have to say var, then whatever you give the name. So this is like a long process. Yeah, right here. This is a long process. Meanwhile, with SASS, you just do this. But now automatically, let's look at the CSS file. You can see now we have body, the background is equal to that same color which the variable was holding, right? So by clicking on this watch SASS, it automatically does that for you automatically. Like, then now what to link this style. So I want the style to be linked to the new CSS file, which is this CSS file right here, instead of this one, because we're not going to be using this anymore. So now next thing, let's look at the portfolio site. Looking at this site, if you notice, each section, like the profile section, the skills section, the project section, each of them share, like, the border radius are the same. Looking at border radius, even the shadow property, like the shadow that is upon each section, are the same. What else? Yeah, the background is also white, which is also the same, right? So they share similar properties. In order for you to use SASS to the fullest, you have to make things share the same properties. So we could create a mixin, right? We could create a mixin. If you don't know what mixin is, so mixin is more like a function, right? So you use the @mixin keyword, then the mixin comes with name, right? So this name, I'm going to name it card style, right? So each of my section will have this style. So currently in our style, looking at this profile, so we have all of these, and these are the things that each section shares, right? So the background color remains the same, the padding remains the same, the box shadow remains the same, the border radius remains the same. So I copy all that, then remember never to post your styles in your CSS. If I do that, right? Once I do that, and okay, yeah, if, like, okay, this is an error, but once I do this, then I come to my CSS, then I save. You'd see it overwrites in anything here. So you are only to make changes to your SASS file, because once you save, it automatically generates whatever you've saved in your SASS file to your CSS file. I hope that's clear. So now I'm just going to paste those styles here, right? So this variables does not exist anymore, so I'll change this to white. Then also I want this to just be shadow, like that. So we've created the mixin. So in mixin is something we can reuse. Like, if you remember from JavaScript, we have functions. So functions are stuff like we want to, like, use them in multiple places. By creating this mixin, we can use this style in different sections by just including it. Don't worry, we'll get to that section. So what next? What next do we want to do? Well, it's a good practice before jumping to what next. It's a good practice to break your SASS file into partials. Um, so in this article here, you could go right. You see, I have the mixing sections. You could read that up, and I also have partials. So let's go to partials. Partials is when you use the underscore before the file, the CSS file name, right? So partials is when you want to break your SAS files into modules, right? You want this to work with only this, then you want this to work with that. Then now looking at this, all these I've written up here, they don't really relate with they don't relate with the components, right? So like this is a component, this is a component, this is a component, this is a component, right? The profile, the project, these are components, right? So we could create a new file or write a partial. So it's my way of naming it base, right? So stuff that, so I name this base, right? Like each section makes use of this base styles. Each section in the HTML, each section, currently we only have one section which is just a profile, right? So each section in my HTML file will make use of all the styles I use at base, right? So all this is going to be used here. It's going to be used by the HTML file, right, in each section. So now we've created a partial base by using the underscore. By doing this, you're saying SASS, hey, don't read this file. Like, do not read this file until I tell you to read it. Currently, if we go to our CSS, it says no CSS, right? Because the word SASS is only reading this file, not this file. So now, in order for us to tell SASS, that hey, you need to watch this partial file, right? The base file. We import it here. So we say add import, then base. This time you don't need to put the underscore because automatically SAS is smart enough to like know that, oh, okay, you want me to watch this base file, right? So now we can say our our body tag or the body selector, which has this style, which we did here. So now let's also grab all of these, right? So this is going to be reusable, paste it here. What else? Right? We grab all of this, right? So I'll just take these two, right? Push it down. I'm holding Alt, right? Alt, then the down arrow key. Then I get rid of this. What else? So we could grab all of this. Let me just grab it once. Or not? No. We want things that only reusable to be in the base, right? So we also want to make use of the H1 and the P tag or selectors, since this one is CSS file, right? They are now selectors, not tags. Why in the HTML file they are tags, right? I hope that's clear. I normally make that mistake. So we want this to be like that, using the variable which we've declared up there. Get rid of all this, changing them to the variable we've declared up there. So now we could create another partial, right? This partial, we're going to name it component, right? Oh, I forgot the extension. We name .css, right? So that is very important. Always use .css. You could also use .sas, right? So there are some advantages and disadvantages, but I'll advise you to read this article, which will be in the description, in order for you to get the full package of SASS and using SCSS or SASS. So next off, what do we want in our components, right? So we want each section, like the styles that are going to be used by each section, we want them to be in our component, right? So I could grab everything here, just grab everything here, copy them, then paste them here in our components. Yeah, we just copy the same styles here, but now let's include that the mixing we created here. Let's include it in our component. So I'm going to get rid of this to include a mixing, right? So you see at include what, then the card style, you use the name, right? So remember we gave the mixing name card style, so we use the name to call, to say that we're using it, right? We're using all the styles, so duplicate those styles there. So now if we go to our plain CSS, we see nothing. Why? So because we've not imported this module, right? This partial, when you import it into your SASS, your style, your general style file, it becomes a module, right? So by using the import, you are actually creating a module. So let's say import component, right? By doing that, now we get the profile, everything in the profile. Right now, see, we have the background, this, the padding, the box sizing, the border radius, and we didn't include that here, right? We only included at include card styles. So this is saying like everything in this mixing, right? Come show them here. Like just show them here. Input them directly into this profile tag. What else can we do? So from my article, so SASS also allows something called mixins. Sorry, nextings. Nexting, right? So this is nexting. Right, so you have your nav, then you can next your UL tag, the selector, then you could also next your LI. The LI could actually be inside of the UL, but I decided to separate them like this. Then your A tag could actually be nexted inside of your LI tag, but I decided to do them like this. So it's going to be rendered like this. So it's going to be nav UL, nav LI, nav A. Right, so if you had put the LI tag selector, sorry, inside of the UL, so it would be nav UL then LI, right? So that's going to be long. So that I think that's going to increase the specificity of, right, of how you're getting to the LI selector. So now let's so yeah, this is a live preview of how the site looks now. It looks pretty good already just by copying and pasting and refactoring the code. Wow, on a very small screen, it looks glitchy and all, right? But so far it's okay, right? So now let's look at nexting. How do we next all these together, right? So we could see here this profile, right, which is the block. Now we have profile image. We could do something crazy, then move this in here, right? So SASS allows you to do this. So let's look at our plain CSS file. So now we have profile, then profile image. Some people will be like, oh no, I don't like this. This is just too much, right? So I don't want profile then profile image, because from the HTML file you can see profile. Then the profile image is the image which is nested in the section that has the class of profile, right? So if you do not like this, right, you don't like this, there's an option. So we could get rid of profile since it's already declared up, right? Then add the dollar sign, sorry, the ampersand sign, right? So this is called the reference selector, right? I like to think of it as a reference selector. You could also think about it as the parent selector, right? So I wrote about it here, the reference selector, whereby I use the ampersand sign in order to. So what you are saying is that whatever is my parent, right? So the profile is the parent. Bring the profile here, then underscore underscore name. So this is a cool this is why I'm using BAME methodology of writing, right? So it allows you to do this. This is reasonable, right? So we say profile underscore underscore image, profile underscore underscore image, right? By getting every single thing here. So now let's look at the CSS file, and voila. So now the profile is on its own and the profile image is on its own. So that is the difference. If you want things to be on their own, right, when they have the same name and use the ampersand, it's generated like this. So the profile selector is going to be on its own and the profile image is going to be on its own, right? So moving on, we could also grab this, put it inside. I'm using Alt to do that, by the way. So since this profile here and now we have profile here again, so we could get rid of all that, then put the ampersand, right? And automatically our CSS gets generated like this, the same way it was before. But if, let me just say it again. So if I should go back, Ctrl Z, if the profile tag is there, our CSS will be nested like this, and now it looks super weird, like it looks so long. So we have profile and profile content header. So I know I was stressing you guys out by telling you to write this long style like profile content and header, but it's just my preference. So by doing this, by including the ampersand, so it makes you write less code. So next off, we could also bring this in, then get rid of the ampersand. Then lastly, bring this also in, then also get rid of the profile, then add in the ampersand. Okay, then this, then do this. And now in our CSS file, we're getting the same thing, right? The same way it was in our CSS file. We've used SASS, right? So I know you might say, oh, this adds more complexity to what I'm doing, but don't worry, I'm sure you would love it once you start using it. Right, so in order for it to create mixins, right, things you can reuse, you could create functions, you could actually create functions. So mixins are not functions, right? So in my article, I also wrote about functions. Did I? Oh no. So I'm sorry, I didn't write about functions, but SASS could include functions. You could go to the official site, right? So let's say SASS, then SASS, and you could read about everything they have. You could learn SASS, then look at documentation, and yeah, and so on, like functions, mixins functions, then how to write a function using SASS, I'm looking for it. This is taking time. Okay, so all you need to know is that you can actually write a function using SASS, right? Then next off, what else do we have to look at? Okay, now so we've made everything the same. And that's it. And I'll see you in the next video.